Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight, I want you to dim the lights, get comfortable, and listen closely. Because we are going to talk about something that taps into a primal fear, the unexpected sound in the dead of night. Specifically, a knock at the door after midnight. Imagine this. You're finally drifting off to sleep. The house is silent, the world outside is still. And then you hear it. A distinct, deliberate knock. It's not the wind, it's not a branch. It's a knuckle on wood. Who could possibly be at your door at this hour? A friend in trouble? A mistaken address? Or is it something else entirely? Your heart starts hammering against your ribs. Every horror movie you've ever seen flashes through your mind. The logical part of your brain is screaming, "Don't open it." But another part, a curious and perhaps foolish part, whispers, "What if it's important?" You creep out of bed, your feet cold on the floor, and inch towards the peephole. Your breath catches in your throat as you peer through the tiny lens. But there's nothing there. Just your empty porch, bathed in the pale glow of a street lamp. You stand there for a full minute, listening. Silence. You convince yourself you imagined it, a fragment of a dream. As you turn to go back to bed, it comes again, louder this time. Knock, knock, knock. Your blood runs cold. It's not a dream. Someone is out there, deliberately hiding from view. This is the moment the story truly begins. It's a universal scenario that has been the start of countless urban legends and chilling tales for a reason. It preys on our sense of safety, turning our home, our sanctuary, into the setting for a potential nightmare. Let's explore one of the most famous legends associated with this, the black-eyed children. The story almost always starts the same way. A knock on the door late at night. You look out to see two children, usually between the ages of 10 and 14, standing on your doorstep. They look normal at first glance, perhaps dressed in slightly outdated clothing. They speak with an unnerving, monotone confidence. They'll say something like, "Let us in, we need to use your phone," or, "Our parents will be here soon. Can we wait inside?" You feel a strange, gut-wrenching sense of dread. Something is profoundly wrong. Your instincts are screaming at you. But they're just children, right? What harm could they do? You might feel a pang of guilt or social pressure to help them. But then, you notice their eyes. They are completely black. No iris, no sclera, just two bottomless dark voids. The witnesses who have shared these encounters all say the same thing. The moment they saw the eyes, an overwhelming, unnatural fear took over. A feeling of being prey. They say the children become more insistent, more demanding, their voices losing any hint of childlike innocence. "You have to let us in." The people who share these stories are the ones who slammed the door, locked it, and didn't look back. The implication is chilling. What happens to the people who do let them in? Nobody knows because they're never heard from again. Of course, this could just be a modern folktale, a spooky story for the internet age. But what if it's not? What if these encounters are real? It taps into our fear of the uncanny valley, something that looks almost human, but is just off enough to be terrifying. And the request to be invited in is a key element in many paranormal and folklore traditions. The idea that certain entities cannot enter a home unless they are explicitly given permission. It gives a sliver of power back to the person inside, but it also makes the scenario infinitely more terrifying. The choice is yours, and your survival might just depend on it. Let's shift from folklore to a true story. This one comes from a Reddit user who was a teenager living with his family in a rural area. One night around 2 a.m., the family dog started barking ferociously at the front door. Then came the knocking. It wasn't a normal knock. It was a frantic, desperate pounding, accompanied by a woman's muffled screaming. His dad, a practical and brave man, grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight and went to the door. He shouted through the wood, "Who is it? What do you want?" The screaming stopped. A man's voice, calm and collected, replied, "Sorry to bother you. Our car broke down. Can we use your phone?" His dad was suspicious. The sudden switch from panicked screaming to a calm request was a huge red flag. He looked through the peephole and saw a man standing there, But the man was positioned in a way that he couldn't see the woman or the car. He told the man, "I'm not opening the door, but I'll call the police for you. What's your location?" The man's demeanor instantly changed. He started cursing, demanding to be let in. He said, "You don't want to get involved? Fine." Then, he walked away. The family, terrified, waited and watched. A few minutes later, they saw headlights. A car that had been parked just out of sight, with its lights off, turned on and sped away. They never knew what was really happening, but the most likely scenario was a domestic dispute, a kidnapping, or a lure for a home invasion. If his dad had opened that door, he would have been walking straight into a trap. This is what makes the late-night knock so terrifying in the real world. It's not about ghosts or ghouls. It's about the very real danger that can be lurking on the other side of your door. It forces you to make a split-second judgment call that could have life or death consequences. You have to balance your desire to be a good Samaritan with your instinct for self-preservation. That single plank of wood is the only thing separating your safe, quiet world from a violent, unpredictable one. So, what should you do if you ever find yourself in this situation? First and foremost, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Never, ever open your door to a stranger late at night, no matter what their story is. Instead, communicate through the closed door or a window. Use a peephole or a security camera to assess the situation without revealing yourself. Ask who they are and what they want. If they claim to need help, like in the story I just told, your best and safest course of action is to offer to call the authorities for them. Tell them, "I'm not opening the door, but I am calling 911 for you right now." A person genuinely in need of help will be grateful. A person with malicious intent will likely flee, because the last thing they want is police involvement. It's a simple phrase that can filter out danger. Also, make your presence known. Turn on lights, speak loudly and clearly. Let them know someone is home, awake and alert. If you have a security system, announce that the police have been dispatched. Often, the element of surprise is what these predators are counting on. By removing that, you make yourself a much less appealing target. Our homes are our castles, and that door is our drawbridge. We have the right to decide who gets to cross it. Don't let social pressure or a cleverly crafted story compromise your safety. In the end, that knock after midnight is a powerful symbol. It's the sound of the unknown intruding on the known. It's a test of our intuition, our courage, and our common sense. Whether it's the chilling legend of the black-eyed children or a real-life close call, these stories remind us to be vigilant. They remind us that the world can be a strange and sometimes dangerous place, and that our safety often depends on one simple decision, to open the door or to keep it locked tight. So, what do you think? Have you ever heard a strange knock in the night? Share your own spooky stories or thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to read them. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. If you enjoyed this dive into the darkness, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Stay safe out there. And always, always trust your instincts.
Have you ever heard a sound in your house you just couldn't explain? A little scratch in the wall, a whisper on the wind. Most of the time, it's nothing, right? The house settling, the pipes groaning. That's what I thought too. My name is Alex, and I live in a house that's been in my family for generations. It's old, full of creaks and groans that I've known my whole life. They were like a familiar, comforting song, until last month when a new sound joined the chorus. It started subtly, a faint, rhythmic tapping from beneath the living room floor. At first, I blamed the plumbing. Old pipes, you know how it is. Then, I thought maybe it was a mouse building a little nest for the winter. I even put out some humane traps, but they stayed empty. Day by day, the tapping grew more distinct. more intentional. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. Tap, 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 pause. Tap, 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 pause. Like a code, I couldn't decipher it. One evening, I was trying to watch a movie, but the sound was impossible to ignore. It was louder than ever. Annoyed, I paused the TV, got down on my hands and knees, and pressed my ear against the old oak floorboards. The wood was cold against my skin, and then I heard it. Not just the tapping, but a voice, a whisper, so faint it was like trying to catch smoke. I couldn't make out the words, just a soft, desperate murmur that seemed to rise from the very earth beneath the house. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't the pipes. This wasn't a mouse. For the next few days, I was obsessed. I'd spend hours lying on the floor, listening. The whispers were always there, just at the edge of hearing. It felt like I was eavesdropping on a secret conversation from another time. I started digging into the history of my house, hoping for a clue. I spent weekends in the town's dusty archives, sifting through brittle property deeds and faded local newspapers. The house was built in the late 1800s by my great-great-grandfather, a man named Thomas A. He was a clockmaker, known for his precision and his quiet, solitary nature. Then I found it. A small, overlooked entry in an old town ledger from 1895. It mentioned a dispute at my family's property. Thomas had a younger brother, Samuel. Samuel was an artist, a dreamer, known for being a bit of a free spirit. The ledger mentioned that Samuel had vanished after a bitter argument with Thomas over an inheritance. No one ever saw him again. The official story was that he'd run off to the city to chase his artistic dreams. But the whispers beneath my floorboards, they told a different story. Driven by a need I couldn't explain, I decided I had to see what was down there. The living room had no cellar access, which was always strange. The only way was to pull up the floor. One Saturday, armed with a crowbar and a heavy dose of nervous energy, I started working on the boards in the corner where the whispers were loudest. The old nails screeched in protest. Prying up that first board felt like breaking a sacred seal. The air that rose from the gap was cool and smelled of damp earth and something else. Something ancient and forgotten. As I pulled up more boards, my flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing a shallow crawl space. And in the center of that space, there was something that didn't belong. A small wooden chest bound with rusted iron straps. My breath caught in my throat. The tapping I'd been hearing, it wasn't coming from the chest. It was coming from inside it. With trembling hands, I reached down and lifted the chest out. It was surprisingly heavy. The lock was old and corroded, but there was a small keyhole. I remembered something. In my grandfather's old desk, there was a box of miscellaneous keys he'd collected over the years. I ran upstairs, my heart pounding, and rummaged through the collection. One key was different from the restonate iron, and old it had to be it. I rushed back downstairs. the key feeling strangely warm in my hand. I inserted it into the lock. It was stiff, but with a final, gritty turn, there was a loud asterisk click, asterisk. The tapping stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. Slowly, I lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was not what I expected. There was no treasure, no hidden fortune. Instead, there was an intricate clockwork device. It was a beautiful, complex mess of gears, springs, and brass levers, and at its heart was a small, delicate metal bird. As the light hit it, the bird whirred to life. Its tiny beak opened and closed, and from it came the tapping sound. Tap, dash, tap, dash, tap. My great-great-grandfather, the clockmaker, he had built this. But that wasn't all. Beneath the clockwork bird was a hidden compartment. I lifted a false bottom and found a stack of letters tied with a faded blue ribbon. The handwriting was elegant, looping script. They were letters from Samuel to a woman named Elara. Love letters, full of poetry, dreams of running away together, and promises of a life filled with art and passion. The last letter was dated the day before he vanished. In it, he wrote that he was going to confront his brother Thomas one last time, to claim his share of their inheritance so he and Elara could finally be together. And then I found one more thing at the very bottom, a single folded piece of paper written in a different hand, Thomas's hand. It was a confession. He admitted that in a fit of jealous rage over the inheritance and Elohim Thomas had also loved from afar, he had argued with Samuel. The argument had turned physical. Samuel had fallen, hitting his head. It was an accident, but a fatal one. Panicked, Thomas hid his brother's body and created the story of him running away. He was consumed by guilt. He built the clockwork bird, a mechanical heart, to tap out a rhythm, a constant reminder of his brother's last moments, a secret penance hidden beneath the floorboards. The whispers, maybe they weren't supernatural. Maybe they were just the echoes of a story that desperately needed to be told, carried on the drafts through the bones of this old house. I had uncovered a century-old family tragedy. Samuel hadn't just vanished. He'd lost his life and his love right here. I located the town cemetery and found an old, unmarked grave in the corner of the plot belonging to my family. There was no name, just a weathered stone. I knew, somehow, it was his. I gave Samuel the burial he deserved, with his name finally carved into the stone. I also tracked down the descendants of Elara. I gave them Samuel's letters, letting them know the truth of their ancestors' love story. It was a bittersweet moment, closing a chapter that had been left open for far too long. The house is quiet now. The whispers are gone. The tapping has ceased. The old creaks and groans have returned to their familiar, comforting song. Sometimes I think about the secrets old houses keep, the stories hidden in their walls and under their floors. I solved the mystery of the voices beneath my floorboards, but it makes me wonder how many other stories are out there just waiting for someone to listen. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into my family's past. If you have any strange stories about your own home, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more explorations into the unknown. See you next time. Have you ever received a text from a number you didn't recognize? What about a text from someone who shouldn't be able to text you anymore? Today, we're diving into a story that's as chilling as it is heartbreaking. A story that blurs the lines between technology, grief, and the unexplained. This is the story of how a young woman named Emily seemed to continue communicating with her loved ones long after she was gone. Our story begins with Frank, a man living a quiet life, still reeling from the sudden loss of his fiancée, Emily. They had been together for 5 years, building a future brick by brick. They'd just picked out wedding invitations. Her dress was hanging in the closet. Then a tragic car accident snatched her away, leaving a void that felt impossible to fill. Frank was devastated, clinging to memories, photos, and the last few texts she'd ever sent him. One evening, about a year after the accident, Frank was scrolling aimlessly through his phone, a familiar ritual of numbness. Suddenly, his screen lit up with a new message. His heart skipped a beat. It was from Emily's number. He stared at it, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing. The message was simple. Just 3 words. I'm watching you. Frank's first thought was that it had to be a cruel prank. He was furious. Who would do something so twisted? He texted back, demanding to know who it was. The reply came almost instantly. You know who? He tried calling the number, but it went straight to voicemail, Emily's familiar. Cheerful voice greeting him from the other side. A cold dread washed over him. He checked with his phone company. The line had been disconnected months ago. It wasn't possible. Over the next few weeks, the strange texts continued. They were never long, just short, cryptic phrases. Don't sell the house. I miss our walks in the park. Remember our song. Each message referenced something deeply personal, a shared memory only he and Emily would know. He told his friends, but they were skeptical. They suggested it might be a glitch, a recycled number, or even his own grief playing tricks on his mind. But Frank knew. He knew the details were too specific. One message, in particular, shook him to his core. It said, "Look under the loose floorboard." Frank was stunned. Years ago, while renovating their bedroom, they'd discovered a loose floorboard under the rug. They'd joked about it being their secret hiding spot. He had completely forgotten about it. With trembling hands, he pulled back the rug, pried up the board, and found a small, dusty box. Inside was a letter written in Emily's handwriting. He unfolded the paper. It wasn't a ghostly message, but a letter she had written before she passed away. In it, she talked about her love for him, their shared dreams, and her fears for the future. She wrote, "If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I know you'll be lost without me, so I've set something up to help guide you. A way for me to keep talking to you." even when I can't be there. At the bottom of the letter was a web address and a password. Frank's mind was racing. He typed the address into his laptop. It led him to a website for a service that sends scheduled messages. It was called something like Afternote or Future Me. Emily, ever the planner, had pre-written dozens, maybe hundreds, of text messages and scheduled them to be sent to him over the following years. Each one was timed to coincide with an anniversary, a birthday, or just a random Tuesday when she knew he might be feeling lonely. The mystery was solved, but the feeling of wonder remained. The "I'm watching you" text was her way of getting his attention. "Don't sell the house" was because she knew how much their home meant to him. "Look under the loose floorboard" was the key to understanding it all. It wasn't a ghost in the machine. It was a testament to love's foresight and ingenuity. Emily had found a way to bridge the gap between life and death, using technology to ensure her presence would be felt long after she was gone. Frank continued to receive the texts for years. They became a source of comfort, a gentle nudge from the woman he loved. Sometimes they were funny, reminding him of an inside joke. Other times they were encouraging, telling him it was okay to move on, to find happiness again. It was as if she was walking beside him, guiding him through the different stages of his grief. The company that provided the service was called Eternal Messages. Frank contacted them, curious about the technology. They explained that Emily had spent hours setting it up, carefully crafting each message and scheduling them with precise timing. She had even linked some messages to certain triggers, like if his social media status changed, which was a feature they were testing at the time. It was an incredible act of love and planning. This story makes you think, doesn't it? In an age where we're all so connected through technology, we rarely consider how that connection can transcend even the ultimate separation. Emily's story isn't about ghosts or the paranormal. It's about a profound, enduring love that found a modern way to express itself. It's a reminder that the people we lose never truly leave us. Their love, their words, and their memories can echo through time, reaching us in the most unexpected ways. It shows us that sometimes the most logical explanation can be even more magical than the supernatural one. The texts weren't from the grave, they were from the heart. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. What do you think about this story? Would you ever consider setting up something similar for your loved ones? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration into the amazing and mysterious stories that surround us. Until next time, stay curious.